Greetings and salutations, all you beautiful individuals. It is another epi of League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you fine feathered individuals for more LCK and LPL action. Again, blessed to have actual games to talk about, and it seems to be a theme that we will have to be talking about jungle Malphite a lot this split.
Oh man, I was hoping that something like this was going to be how we started out the year. And you can have some type of theories or hopes and projections on where you think the meta is going to shape up to be. I don't think anybody was truly predicting something along the lines of turning back the clock to jungle Malphite, but here we are, and here we are seeing the success of this pick in a way where it's finding some angles.
And we had a couple bangers, and the big boys were on the Rift, both Billy and Anyone's Legend, making their 2026 debuts in the LPL and in the Weibo versus BLG set. This was very back and forth and looked at times in Game 2 like it was going to be a sweep for Weibo. We get this JJ Baron steal to kind of get them back in this game, and they look like they're on the trajectory for Elk to get mega revenge against his former squad.
It is not gonna come through thanks to the BLG effort in Game 2. They find a way turning it around and making us go to a Game 3 where it's the Cassiopeia that gets locked in by your boy Xiaohu. A couple of mistakes coming through on the Snake Lady. She makes sure she's trying to get that pink ward out there, but it's always one of those ones where is the value of clearing that ward worth the risk that you're gonna put yourself into? And clearly the punishment from BLG, it was not worth it on the side of Weibo.
And just if you have the Xiaohu POV of this game, was quite a roller coaster, because let's give him credit, he pumps Knight in lane against the Taliyah. He's got a sizable advantage going through. Then he goes mid lane to kill a pink ward, gets caught out, and BLG get back into the game. But then he has a miracle team fight around Baron with a nice petrifying gaze to clean it up, and Weibo's back in the driver's seat, and then he gets caught out again. And that is just the wild ride that you had with Xiaohu in this third game.
Oh man, just jitters all over the place, because again, it must have been one of those ones where you're feeling the hype, the excitement, the momentum, because you've made a mistake before, but you've rebounded, you've redeemed yourself in this type of situation. You're pushing that edge of getting towards that victory, and you make a mistake like that, and it all comes crumbling back down again, and it's unfortunate. I think there are absolutely pain points. You can look at this one individually on Xiaohu, but there certainly are bright spots as well when you're looking at his performance. You go back to Game 1 on the LeBlanc, able to find a way to be a factor, be a damage threat in that game. Unfortunate for Weibo, because I think absolutely this is one of those ones where, more than just one opportunity you can look at and say, we should have found a way to close this series out and step away with the W, but you don't on the end of the day, and it is BLG picking up one of these wins. And again, I think a BLG Weibo head-to-head are going to be important head-to-heads as we're looking in the LPL.
And at least very early signs in the LPL is that Weibo can compete with the squad like BLG after their great debut a mere 24 hours ago, basically. Their second set, even though they lose, and it was Viper was kind of getting outplayed by Elk in the first two games. Then he gets this Aphelios matchup where he gets, what happens when Viper gets spoon-fed a couple of kills early on an iconic pick for him, like that Aphelios. But shout out to Elk for having a great series as well.
Oak, and that's an important thing to see for this Weibo squad, and as far as where their power and competency is going to be. And one of the other factors that you do need to keep track of for this Weibo team and where they will end up, what trajectory, what tier of the LPL, is Zika in the top side and what he's going to be able to do and how he can hold himself. And I think that this was a relatively very solid to good series from him overall, what you're looking through and what you're checking mark against this early for Weibo. So good to see those early signs for them, outside of course, one of the notable ones that we talk about with Xiaohu, which was a little bit up and down throughout the day.
Yeah, and again, he had a great LeBlanc performance. He had moments where he was outplaying Knight and moments where he single-handedly lost his team a team fight and maybe potentially the game, but we'll ignore that. We also learned that Zahan doesn't look so broken, even in the hands of Bin. And if you go to the other series in the LPL, IG versus Anyone's Legend, you had Saboro playing Zahan, and it definitely did not look broken in his hands.
Which I'm pretty shocked by, to be honest, because I still think that there is just so much overloaded, overbaked into this kit that it is impossible that we get throughout the entirety of this year without screaming out a new Cassante Ambisa type of meme type of thing out of it from Showmaker. I'm sure there's going to be some pain points, but early on, not so many. And I think one of the early signs as well, kind of keeping track of some of the meta options, as we talked about Malphite a bit earlier, now Zahen. I think the other one to keep track of is this Talia pick in the mid lane, because we have seen it picked multiple times. It seems to be one of the early kind of safe comfort type of options that is being leaned towards in the meta, that is just not having any type of positive results. It's not really making a difference in a good way for any of these teams. So I think it's going to be pretty quick in the next week or two that we start to see that priority shift.
Yeah, and you've also seen, like, I mean, the mid lane meta is pretty similar to what we were getting last year. Anivia seems like maybe even more of a staple in the meta, less so a kind of crazy pocket pick to come through, as Rookie did pilot it in game 2, but he kind of got a little bodied by Shanks in that second matchup. But the real highlight moments from this series was absolutely in game 1. It was your boy Hope on the Varus, who survives an insane gank attempt and then later on gets a quadra kill to finish the game 13-1-3. My man had a fantastic debut for the Pandas.
Oh my lord, he did he ever, and especially on the other side of the rift, the Sivir was completely nowhere to be found.
Forgot she was in the game for 25 minutes.
And that has to be one of the most helpless, hopeless feelings in League of Legends, is playing a Sivir that has no role, no real effect in any of the gameplay. Because you're not doing anything. None of your attacks are threatening or damaging in that type of regard. And then especially, what's your utility here? Oh, I'm gonna get everybody out of this bad situation, hopefully. And maybe you're too far behind and you can't get out of those bad situations, which was eventually the case in this one due to how far ahead Hope is on that Varus.
And listen, the team playing around Hope on a fed Varus, and you just saw some of these more extended team fights, especially in that second game, that AL, doesn't matter if Tabe's there or not, the synergy is built in with this squad and kind of right where they left off in 2025, and, you know, very early still feel like this is the front runner to be best squad in the LPL.
And it passes the first hurdle here, right? You know, with Tabe leaving the organization, this was going to be that first test, the initial signs that we were going to see whether there was actual progress, gains, you know, development for this organization over this time, or if it simply was a Tabe effect type of thing. We're seeing that it is a level up. It was a development. It was a growth for these players, for this organization. The question is, can it continue? Can it keep having the longevity that it needs to be a competitive top-tier option within the LPL? Or do things catch up to them at some point within these splits? I think that is going to be the thing that we are keeping track of. But very early on, it's getting that double check mark on the side of anyone's legend.
And IG side of things, that's, you know, they won the first game against Weibo yesterday, but that's 4 in a row. Losses now to start 0-2 on the split, but at the bare minimum, doesn't matter how things play out, they got that Demacia Cup trophy sitting at home, and ain't nobody gonna take that away from them.
Nobody's gonna take it away from them, but someone might take that starting position away from Rookie at some point, I think, due to, again, seeing that success of the lineup at the Demacia Cup and then how things have been since then. It's not a crazy thing to start to question it and need to see some turnaround performance, some bounce back from Rookie individually. Otherwise, I think maybe if you are, again, trying to salvage anything for this IG team, you might have to become as desperate enough to sub out someone like Rookie.
Yeah, and, you know, I heard there were murmurs of it during that Demacia Cup with Reynard starting that people were saying, I mean, do they get better if Rookie comes in? This might be, they look good, might be the better version. So absolutely that mid lane spot's something we're going to be monitoring as 2026 goes on, especially if IG keep dropping series as they have been. LCK side of things, we had to wait for the big matchup of T1 versus Hanwha. That's for the Friday, but we did have the defending champs and the big boys on campus making their debut in Gen G against DRX, and early on, they needed to warm up a little, and shoutouts to DRX for having a pretty good early game against Gen G.
Better than expected early game, I think, is the way you can hold on to this one. Unfortunately, it is still the expected result at the end of the day because it is Gen G finding their way through this game and finding their own power-ups. Some pretty good plays from your boy Chovy, from Ruler, making their way through this one. And then again, you get to game 2, and the wheels fall off for DRX. It was a good attempt in the first game and a good strong kind of early to mid game, and then you get to game 2, the draft takes hold, and things are very powerful for Gen G because you got a lot of comfort when it is Ruler piloting the Ezreal.
Yeah, and game 2 was definitely just kind of a montage moment for Ruler on the Ezreal. As you know, they have a 2v2, then he has a kind of 1v2 outplay. Game 2 is the more classic Gen G game that we're expecting.
I think there's a moment where he lives with, I'm not kidding, no more than 2.5 or 3 health. There is absolutely insanity going on in that bot lane. There just is something different about Ruler's Ezreal. It is one of the scariest options you could ever see on the other side of Summoner's Rift, is that option and is that control that he has over this champion. And certainly got to see the excellency early from this Gen G team, a Gen G showing us a good bit of hunger and tenacity on the way that they want to approach this early part of the year. Got to keep that momentum, that type of hunger, that type of edge to this team. And I know that's a heavy task when you're talking about the type of win streaks that this team has shown that they are capable of going on. But that is the task that is going to be asked of you as you head towards these international events, is to keep this type of energy, this type of focus that you see in matches like this, in matches that are in the do or die type of situations.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing for them is they almost need self-motivating factors. When you have these insane win streaks, you've got to draw motivation within when it's, week 3 of these long extended regular seasons and you keep winning. But got to give a shout out to that first game, because maybe the best play of the series is still Willer on the Xin Zhao, finding the insec on Chovy to throw him into the Baron pit. This is the fight that you think maybe is going to get DRX in the driver's seat for this game. Gen G swiftly wins the next team fight and closes the game out. But that one play was downright nasty.
It's crazy because the narrative isn't going to let you see this play almost ever again throughout the entirety of this year, but it's probably one of the best plays you're going to see throughout the entirety of the year right away, seeing that the mechanics of this one, the creativity to bet on yourself and go for the play. Love to see that one from your boy Willer, and certainly one of these ones where, again, if the result turns out different, maybe even if we get a game 3 in this situation, you are able to remember and show that highlight a lot more. It's going to get lost in the next 24 to 48 hours due to the result of this game.
And we'll make sure it stays for at least another 48 hours as we talk about it. But the other LCK matchup was the biggest hands throwdown on the day, and that is BNK Furex versus Nongshim. And I think this first game where they get Yunara for Diable, this was the example of how they got him to stay with the squad. They said, we will draft whole comps around you and have all 4 members play around you in team fights. And this is the result, and this is why he stuck around.
Pretty fun thing to stick around for, right? When you got all 4 members spoon feeding you, making sure that Mr. President is all happy and taken care of here, Diable, yes. And then he holds up his end of the bargain, but making sure the damage, these skills are all there on display and making sure that it is going to be the side of BNK coming away with the win. This one means a heck of a lot more than you would think just on the initial face value of looking at one of these ones, but understanding the way things are going to work out with our groups and, and how they're split out here in the early part of this LCK. These matter, especially for a squad like Nongshim needing to find a way to get some results in this one, because it can't, we've seen it before last year. It can't simply just be a Gen G, a T1, an elite tier team, those 2 that you will have in your group pacing your way through. You need someone else, at least a 3rd, if not a 4th team, finding some wins, finding some competitiveness in these matchups. Otherwise, the other side is just gonna run away with it, and that is your concern right now, I think, pretty early if you are looking at Gen G and still waiting a bit on T1. But from what we can see so far about these other squads that are in the other group and what is left here in this group with Gen G, it's not looking good. And this was the big one that you needed if you were on the Gen G T1 side, Group Baron, have go your way. Get Nongshim to steal this one away, and it didn't come through.
And really the only thing that might get stolen is Scout's starting position after this, because the second game, it's one thing to get gapped by Chovy. Sure, that happens to most guys within the LCK. But to get gapped in the fashion that he did by Vikla. Now, Vikla had a much better year last year to close things out for BNK, but he made Scout look like a Challenger League player, not a former World Finals MVP.
It's nothing about Vikla. This is purely about the standards that you have set yourself in your career with your performance and your accomplishments on Scout's side. And what you are doing now, in comparison, it's not the same type of thing. So you don't get the same type of protection, same type of respect in that type of way, where you do have to sometimes bow out to someone else in one of these type of situations, and especially one where you have a promising, talented, potential star behind you in Calyx. Yes, I think it's as soon as the very next series, I would want to throw Calyx in there at the very least for game one and see how things play out in this one, because again, you can't be giving a very long leash for someone like Scout at this point, given what we have seen the last year and a half or so and how things are started out this year. Yeah, I'd be pretty quick on making one of those changes, especially again, a Nongshim that outside of everything that I talk about, Gen GT1 Group Baron, they have their own goals and sights set on being a competitive team and improving themselves in the LCK. And Scout's performance so far is nowhere close to being that level that it needs to be.
And especially because we're so early still in the split, there's opportunity to pull Scout out and he'll come back later or play other games, see how Calyx goes. I'd be shocked if Calyx isn't getting at least, if it's not game one in the next series, it's the minute Nongshim drops another game, he should be getting subbed in, because, I mean, he more than earned what he did last year to be a starter on Nongshim. And quick note again on the day, haven't seen the coaches' comms make any crazy impact yet, other than Duro deciding to go pilot a Rift Herald and take over the game. But I don't know if Coach Ryu was telling him to do that.
No, and I'm still waiting. I think we will get a pretty big moment of it happening, either positive or negative, right, on the way that it'll play out. But I think that it will be a factor that we do need to keep track of. I think it has certainly been a very cautious approach to it, at the very least, from either side, whether it's the coaching staff or the players, and how much they have talked about what type of intervention they would want from the coaching staff in that regard. I think it has been a very cautious approach to it so far early, but I think we'll see that change as we get a little bit deeper and a little bit more involved within this early part of the LCK.
I'm excited to have the coach comp come in and they make a horrible call that cost them the game, and then it's the coach who's going to finally get flamed instead of the players for shot calling.
We've seen it. We've seen it in professional sports. Someone can make their way in through that one and make the decision, make the call that is the wrong one in the moment, that isn't the players responsible. I think it's going to happen. It's going to happen, good or bad type of one. You can take the bad, I'll take the good, whatever. We're going to see something special come through from it, and then we're going to have to make the discussions about whether this is a feature or a role that you want to implement moving forward type of thing.
It wasn't just the LCK and the LPL debuting this week. We have the other marquee Tier 2 ERL, the NLC Northern League Championship, where Los Ratones used to play, but now they're not there because the LEC versus. So we need another streamer highlight content team, and we queue 4 swines and a bum, or FF15 as their tagline in game is. This is Forsen's squad that we talked about, and yes, you didn't mishear me. Forsen, yes, that Forsen, starting in the jungle for them with Pole Belter on 200 ping in the mid lane. But the biggest issue against DMG was Jack Spectra falling behind 50 CS on Aphelios as they shockingly dropped their debut game.
Okay, you could have told me that Forsen's team was going to lose on debut. I'd certainly believe that one. But if you told me he wasn't the worst player by far on the day on that, I would have a little bit of hesitancy in that one heading into it. But yeah, give him some credit. My man looked like he was doing all he could out there, which unfortunately wasn't too much given the position that his team was in, due to, again, Jack Spectra in that bottom lane was down, what was it, over 50 CS early? This was not a fair fight whatsoever, and especially made even worse by the way that we have seen, again, the game changed and where the weight and value is in these things. Having that type of disadvantage in the bottom lane, I don't care. You got Prime Canyon, you're bringing Peanut out of retirement, whoever you want in the jungle, you're not saving that squad at that point. So absolutely 07 Forsen for that one. Good effort out there in the debut, but your teammates holding yourself back, unfortunately.
And we'll have to check on the notorious POB throughout the split to make sure he's doing okay. Playing in from NA onto this squad. Number one, I don't really understand why Pole Belter agreed to be on this team. And number two, Lost Ratones and even the Ruddy Sack Perks roster, they were at least expecting to win and have some of this content. This is a content team, no question, but is it going to be fun if they're going 0-8? Are teams still going to be tuning in?
I very much so want to see how it's going to play out, and I think for Poe Belter, it is this craziness, right? Because again, as you laid out, the Lost Ratones, the Ruddy Sack type of experiment that we have seen before, it's a little bit of a different environment. This is a completely other set of rules that this squad is rolling through, and what you've got. And then you just randomly throw in Poe Belter playing off of his PC way over across the pond situation. It is craziness. It is wild, but it is a fun story to have, at least in League of Legends. And again, for the NLC, this is crazy that they were able to bring in what they had last year with Lost Ratones. And yeah, it's not the same equal out type of thing. It never, ever, ever was going to equal out to be the exact same type of magic run of last year. But to have something similar, have another reason outside of obviously the gameplay that people want to tune in and keep track of and are drawn to your region. This matters. These do matter, and you did see it again. A lot of eyeballs watching this one, way more than you ever would have thought for 3 NLC letters thrown together. This is craziness.
I will say, if they do manage to win a game, it will probably be the most viewed NLC match of the entire season. So they must be doing something right, but that is it today for League Unlock.